Yo, Black Lives Matter, Milwaukee first. Rocking the Golden Dragon today. Golden Dragon, Bruce Lee style. Let me tap on that so it doesn't do the focus thing. Now I know made a video talking about how I trolled myself by trolling Black Lives Matter, but now that's not the case. I guess it's come full circle. And I'm sure I've told elements of this story before, but maybe it's a little more interesting me telling it now. Is this crooked? I just got this. One day I'll have it all hooked up, guys. One day. It's probably a little bit more interesting telling the story after George Floyd. I got the homie Oscar Grant here in the background. I made a video when he was murdered as well back in the day. I think I just made a video talking about that. So Black Lives Matter Milwaukee. So to set the stage, I had recently dropped off Magda at the airport in Vancouver, and I was driving a rental, like an SUV or something. When I came over the border, there was, dude, when you're brown, black, whatever, you just catch heat all the time. And this dude was peppering me with questions, and I was answering them, but then his last question made me frustrated. And I said, no, his last question was, tell me why a guy from Iowa, what he meant was black or brown guy from Iowa, is dropping off someone at the airport in Vancouver. You know, tell me a story, he said. And I said, no. And he goes, all right. Keeps my passport, has me drive over to the side. Now, this is supposed to be about Black Lives Matter, so I won't go deep into the story. Basically, I got put into handcuffs, got put in a cell, all for no reason really, mostly because I was defiant. This white border patrol officer woman comes out, and she's like, what's going on? The main question was, one of the guys said, look, you can go inside the easy way or the hard way. And I said, what's the hard way? In handcuffs. And he says, in handcuffs. And I go, I'll do that. He got all flustered. Anyway, I tell her that, and she goes, all right. She's like, why did you choose the hard way? I said, because I could. She goes, okay, fair point. So then they let me out. Boom, I'm on my way. I get home. I start filing a complaint on the Border Patrol website. And I hear that Patrice Alicia Garza or whatever, telling her story about how Black Lives Matter happened. I'm at the computer at my mom and grandma's house, and I hear her on MSNBC telling the story, and the story sounded fishy to me. And the reason the story sounded fishy is, like, I'm very internet, as you may or may not know, but she said that she created the hashtag Black Lives Matter. And my gut told me that, no, I bet someone else had said that at some point in time, and then they took it and ran with it. And if that was the case, that wasn't that big a deal. But that's what I thought. So after hearing that, I'm like, that sounds fishy. I go and look into it, and I found that people had said Black Lives Matter, hashtag Black Lives Matter before them. But what really got me was that there was another group of black women who started Black Life Matters. And again, you can go to blacklifematters.org. It's still there. That group started before this other group. And that group looked way more organized, way more principled, everything. The Black Lives Matter chicks, not to get into conspiracy or whatever, but the funding was a little like shadowy. I believe that guy, which his name is something King, Sean King or something, he was involved. He's an old internet dude. But like, what was weird is you have this group that Black Lives Matter, the group that got all the publicity, and they're the group that. So the group that gets all the publicity is the one that's like least organized as it could have been a national hub for organizing on behalf of black people, but instead they were like, oh, it's a decentralized movement, you know, so blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay, fuck it, it's decentralized. I'm going to start Black Lives Matter Iowa. I'm going to start Black Lives Matter Milwaukee. I was living in Iowa at the time. You know, I would have started a ton of them if I had the time and resources, which I'm sure somebody has or not. Now, Black Lives Matter Milwaukee, even though I wasn't living in Milwaukee at the time, I'm from there and I traveled there regularly. So I went and I anytime I was going, I set up a meeting. I'd go, there'd be a small meeting, I'd leave. Then once, while I was in Iowa, this got organized. There was a young white woman who wanted to do a spoken word thing. I was like, awesome, organize that. She organized it. I just helped, you know, with the internet side. And I went, and that was like amazing. Like 60 people came out, like people from government, like a judge came out, like people running for office, people already in office came out. It was crazy. It was good. And then I had a second spoken word event that was also crazy. I had my friend Teju headline, Teju the storyteller, and it was great. And that, you know, going from and the reason I wanted to do this was because I wanted to I still want to get those women who started Black Lives Matters. I want them to be a part of the story, especially because on the Black Lives Matter they have this page called Her Story instead of History, and they talk about, you know, Black women being written out of history. But then you have these other set of Black women that they wrote out of the history of the Black Lives Matter movement, which tripped me out. That's basically how I started Black Lives Matter. Now, so I did those real events, and then I didn't do that many real events. Then it was mostly just sharing events that were going on, you know, remotely, or sharing posts or whatever. Anytime there was a high-profile murder, there'd be a spike in interest. Maybe journalists would reach out. There was one, the you know, Fox News is the only journalist that ever interacted with me and then quoted me in a story. And that's always been strange to me too. That why has no one, you know, this makes me very, very, you know, suspicious of mainstream media, you know, like fake news Trump style. Is like, why has this other group never been mentioned? Their website is still up. Like, why have they never been mentioned alongside of just as part of the story anyway? That's always bothered me. So anyway, like, you know, anytime there was a high profile murder, spike in interest, and you know, and then all of a sudden I'm over here and still, like, you know, doing it, like I have different people from Milwaukee managing it, Then the George Floyd thing pops off and the interest went way up, and you know, the Facebook page didn't grow that many. Maybe the Facebook page went up by like 1,000 likes, but the Milwaukee Facebook group in Milwaukee, it went off. It went from like you know, 500 people and pretty dormant to now there's like 3.1 thousand people in there, and it's very active and people joining all the time. My wife is actually helping to find more moderation for it. And I should say this at the, let me add a couple things. When I started Black Lives Matter, I initially wanted to pass it on to some group in Milwaukee that was already established and doing stuff, but nobody liked the heat that came. They didn't like the baggage that came from the name Black Lives Matter, so no one wanted to own it. Or you would have groups who would say, well, why do we need Black Lives Matter when I exist already, or this exists? And no one really understood the power of the media juice that you could extract from Black Lives Matter. Like none of the groups, like, I mean, I know there are people who totally get it, but like when I was dealing with people in Milwaukee, they weren't getting it. I'm like, dude, this could be a vehicle for fundraising. This could be a vehicle for selling merch and, again, fundraising. Never really got it. Not now, with this huge spike, a friend of mine was active out there at the rallies. My friend Dwight. So I just made him admin. I just like, boom, you're admin. Didn't even say nothing, and he's been working on it. He's been working it, so that's been good. But I don't know if I made that like it's interesting because this movement is, you know, it was this weird decentralized hashtag that is, I'm sure the Black Lives Matter core group is working on doing something more interesting than whatever they've been doing. But out here, and I'll tell the story out here later, out here we're creating an umbrella group, and Black Lives Matter is going to be one piece, and we're going to be working with indigenous people. We're going to be working with black people, because, you know, like in Taiwan, it's not like you just have American black people here. You got people from Kenya, people from Nigeria, people from all over the African continent, black people from Europe, and then you have the migrant workers from the Philippines, the migrant workers from Indonesia. We're about to make a full-bodied, and I wish I could tell you all the details of last night, but anyhow, that's how Black Lives Matter Milwaukee got started. And my experience with Black Lives Matter Milwaukee, I basically took it to Taiwan when I moved to Taiwan. And I'll leave it there. If you have like some questions or something in between this video and the next, hit me up. But exciting times, man. All right, fam. Spirit fam. Fam. Love you. Peace.